Hey guys, welcome to episode 42 of Mark Anthony's Music Picks. Today I'm going a little bit off standard and I'm doing an idea that was suggested to me by one of my viewers. His name is Tom Anks. He suggested that I do an episode centering around tracks that have jazz influences. I don't have a ton of records that fit the bill for this, but the ones that I do have are pretty awesome. So I'm hoping that you can maybe get some ideas from this and maybe some of these will catch your guys' ear. The first one that I have, no surprise here, is by a group named Cobblestone Jazz, which is Mathew Jonson plus, I believe, 2 or 3 other gentlemen. And it's on It Is What It Is, a label that I featured in my Mathew Jonson episode just a week ago. The track that I like on here is called Gumbordinary, like Gumbo Ordinary, Gumbordinary. It's down-tempo, it's jazz, and to me, this really seems like Mathew Jonson expressing himself and his roots, which really are fundamentally jazz. The track that's on the B side of this, or I'm sorry, the A side, is also nice, but it's not really strong with the jazz elements as strong as Gumbordinary is. But overall, I think this is awesome for any jazz heads that are out there. The next record I want to talk to you about is by one of the members of Minilogue. Now, if you guys don't know who Minilogue are, they're basically time travelers that came back from the year 2500 in a UFO to present future sounds to us and kind of get us on their level. Now, in recent years, Minilogue split up. I believe they split up around the year 2013, and the duo went in 2 separate directions. So you've got Sebastian Mueller and Marcus Henriksen. Sebastian has been releasing a lot more than Marcus, so you got to kind of like sift through his releases and you know, pick out the ones that are the best. And in terms of pure quality, like all 4 tracks on the EP being awesome, I don't think you can beat this one. It's on Apollo, and you get 4 tracks here with a ton of variety in them. The A1 on here, Every Moment I Am, is the most obvious jazz influence and probably the most Minilogue sounding track that's on here. There's also a crazy good track on the B2 that I'm not going to do a sample for, but definitely check this out. It's called Wings of Remembrance. Really just blew me away the first time that I bought this EP, and that's actually the reason that I bought this. But recently, Every Moment I Am has also grown on me because I spend a lot of time listening to this record. The next release I want to go through with you is by Tom Flynn. Now, Tom Flynn is kind of an on-the-sneak producer. He dabbles in a lot of different styles. I mean, he's mainly electronic, and I guess if he centers around anything, it's tech house, but here, he went house. And the track on here called 50 Ways is crazy because if you didn't tell me otherwise, I would swear up and down that it was a Joe Claussell record. I mean, everything down from the jazz noodling to the way that the percussion sounds, just the sounds that were chosen for it, it's almost like an ode to Joe Claussell and his label. The track that I like the most on here is 50 Ways Tom's Deep Mix. It's got jazz, like kind of like noodling going on, and it also has a really nice haunted drone effect, like almost like a swarm of bees or a wasp, like wasps that are kind of lurking in the background, and that tone just sort of carries its way through the entire track and gives it this deep haunted energy that's really hard to, I guess, put into words, but it's pretty nasty. It creates a pretty nasty effect when you turn that up really loud. There's also some really cool tracks that are not jazz, but some really nice ambient and straight up house tracks that are out of the normal for Tom Flynn that are on here. But you get 5 tracks total and they're all great, so I highly recommend this. I feel like the only thing stopping this record from selling thousands of copies is that people just don't know about it yet. It's that good. The next release that I want to cover is a really cool one, and I have to say I love the cover art for this. This is Eduardo de la Calle, if I'm saying that right. I mean, it sounds like a bullfighter. Eduardo de la Calle. He's got this EP called the icosahedrite EP, if I'm saying that correctly. I guess that's what this shape here represents. Maybe it's a two-dimensional representation of a icosahedrite. But he went total jazz on this. And I think the reason that Eduardo went jazz on this is because it's on Planet E. This is a Planet E record. And if you guys know, Carl Craig runs Planet E, and Carl Craig's roots are 100% in jazz. He's actually not fundamentally a techno guy. He's like a jazz guy that makes techno, if that makes any sense. So I'm guessing that what happened was Carl probably asked Eduardo to tap into his jazz or do something with maybe a little bit of jazz influence. If I had to guess, that's how it went down. But this turned out great. My favorite track on here, it's kind of got this upbeat jazz feel to it. It's called Phazon Jazz. There's also another jazz attempt on the B-side, Mr. Dewey D, that's really cool. And the B2, Rhythmic Soundscapes, is not jazz, but it's a really wicked kind of abstract techno journey. Wrapping this all together, you can still get this one for cheap. Planet E releases aren't hard to get a hold of, but this one's awesome, 3-tracker, and if you can get this for 10 or 15 bucks, I highly recommend it. If you like jazz at all, you will freaking love this, okay? You'll love it. And the last release that I'm going to talk about, again, no surprise because it's a Mathew Jonson record, is on this 719 David EP. I love the cover art for this too. This is old Wagon Repair. And my favorite track on here is The Girl from LBC. Now, if you listen to the sample that I'm going to put in here, it strongly reminds me of Snoop Dogg's old track. Like if you listen to the original version of Murder Was the Case, it has this really hard snare that has reverb on it. And the way that it echoes out, I think it was the hook to really made Murder Was the Case like that awesome of a hip hop track, was that it had that snare with the reverb on it. And this sort of emulates that. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but you can see that this has a ton of hip hop influences in it. And it's also got kind of like a bass plucking, kind of ominous bass plucking, like bass guitar effect going on. And those two factors combined just make this a really sick record. That's all I have for today, guys. Tom, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And let me know if you have any other jazz recommendations that you can throw my way. I'm always down for something new and something awesome.